Today, we're going to demystify one of nature's most fundamental clocks. It's a principle that helps us do everything from dating ancient history to managing our future. We're talking about half-life. You ever wonder about this? Seriously. How can someone look at a piece of bone and say with confidence, oh yeah, this is from 65 million years ago? It sounds a bit like magic, doesn't it? Well, it's not magic, it's science. And the key to unlocking that secret is understanding half-life. Okay, let's dive right in. To answer that fossil question, we first need to wrap our heads around this invisible countdown clock that's ticking away inside certain elements all around us. So what exactly is half-life? At its heart, the definition is actually pretty straightforward. It's a measurement of time. More specifically, it's the time it takes for exactly half of a collection of unstable or radioactive atoms in a sample to spontaneously change into something else. There are a couple of ways to look at this, but they're really just two sides of the same coin. You can literally track the physical amount of the stuff as half of it disappears, or you can measure its activity. Think of this like the sizzle coming off a hot pan. It's the energy being given off. When that sizzle drops by half, one half-life has passed. Both methods are just measuring that same invisible clock. So we know what it is, but what are the rules that govern this whole process? Because this isn't just any old countdown. It operates on some very specific and, frankly, pretty fascinating principles. And this right here, this is the absolute key to why half-life is such a reliable clock. For any radioactive element, its half-life is an unshakable constant. I mean, you can heat it, freeze it, crush it, mix it in a chemical reaction, and it doesn't matter. That internal clock just keeps ticking at the exact same predictable rate. It is incredibly robust. But here's where things get a little weird. If you could zoom in and just watch a single unstable atom, you would have absolutely no way of knowing when it's going to decay. It could happen in the next second or in 1,000 years. For one atom, it's completely and totally random. So wait a minute. How can something so random be a reliable clock? Well, it's because when you have a huge group, we're talking billions and billions of atoms, all that individual randomness just averages out into a perfectly predictable pattern. Think of it like flipping a coin. You don't know if one flip will be heads or tails, right? But if you flip 1,000,000 coins, you can be very, very sure you'll get about 500,000 heads. It's the law of large numbers in action. So let's actually see how this builds into a clear mathematical pattern. This is where we can really visualize that invisible clock at work, just ticking off one half-life at a time. This table lays it out perfectly. So you start with 100%. After one half-life passes, you're down to 50%. Makes sense? But after a second half-life, you have that again, which leaves you with 25% of the original. After a third, you're at 12.5%, and so on. It's a consistent pattern of just having what's left. And here's that first tick of the clock. One half-life has passed. Your original sample is now perfectly split. Half of it remains unchanged, and the other half has decayed into something new. A perfect 50-50. Now a second half-life goes by. And notice, we don't lose another 50% of the original amount. No, we lose half of what was remaining. So that 50% gets cut in half, leaving us with just 25% of the original substance. This is the whole idea behind exponential decay. And if you were to plot this on a graph, you'd get this classic beautiful curve. See how it starts off really steep and then gets shallower and shallower as time goes on? And here's a mind-bending fact. Mathematically, the amount of the original stuff never actually reaches zero. It just gets infinitely smaller. I mean, think about it. If you're always having a positive number, the result can never be zero, just closer and closer to it. All right, that's enough theory. Let's take what we've learned and actually apply it to a practical example. This is how scientists really use this knowledge to figure things out. So here's our problem. We've got a substance, we know its half-life is 10 days, we start with 80 grams. The question is, what's left after a month or 30 days has passed? The logic is actually pretty straightforward. First, let's just figure out how many half-lives have passed. It's been 30 days and the half-life is 10 days. So 30 divided by 10 is 3. 3 half-lives. Easy. Now, we just take our starting amount of 80 grams and have it 3 times. So 80 becomes 40, 40 becomes 20, and 20 becomes 10. And there you go. That's our answer. After 30 days, 10 grams of the original substance will be left. See? Once you understand the rules, the math itself is actually pretty elegant. So why does any of this matter? This isn't just some abstract concept for a physics class. Understanding half-life has profound, real-world implications, affecting everything from our health to our history. I mean, think about it. In medicine, doctors use isotopes with short half-lives for diagnostics and to target cancer cells. In archaeology, carbon dating, which relies on the half-life of carbon-14, is exactly how we answer that first question about the age of fossils. It's absolutely essential for managing nuclear energy, and it has countless industrial uses. It really is everywhere. Of course, because we are dealing with radioactivity, safety is paramount. The principles are simple. Use shielding, like lead, keep a safe distance, minimize your exposure time, and always make sure radioactive materials are stored in secure, properly labeled containers. Following these simple precautions allows us to harness the power of half-life safely. And that brings us to a final thought. We've seen that the original substance never truly disappears, right? It just gets smaller and smaller, forever. So this leaves us with a fascinating question. If it never hits zero, where does all that decaying matter actually go? Well, it transforms. It becomes a new, more stable element. And in that very transformation lies the story of our universe, measured one half-life at a time.